Did you know that a single failed component is responsible for nearly 80% of motorcycle electrical breakdowns? What is a regulator rectifier? In this video, we are talking about 9 symptoms of a failing regulator rectifier and how to catch it before it drains your wallet. So, what's a regulator rectifier? It's the box that converts raw AC voltage from your stator into smooth regulated DC power, typically 13.5 to 14.5 volts, that keeps your battery charged and powers your lights, ignition, fuel injection, and every electronic system on your bike. Cruiser, sport bike, dual sport, or vintage. Doesn't matter. Every motorcycle depends on this part. It's usually bolted near your battery, tucked under the seat, or zip-tied to the frame, quietly doing its job until the day it doesn't. Let's dive into the 9 warning signs that your regulator rectifier is dying before you're stuck on the roadside with a dead bike and a tow bill. Symptom 1. Dim or flickering lights. Your headlights, turn signals, or dashboard lights start looking weak. They flicker when you rev the engine. They dim out completely at idle. You notice it most at night, sitting at a stoplight, watching your headlight pulse like a dying flashlight. Here's what's happening. Your regulator rectifier takes wild AC voltage from your stator, swinging anywhere from 20 to 80 volts depending on RPM, and converts it into stable 13.5 to 14.5 volts of DC power. When it starts to fail, it loses its ability to smooth out that voltage. Your lights get fed inconsistent, choppy power, which makes them flicker and dim. This isn't just annoying. Dim lights at night are a legitimate safety hazard. Other drivers can't see you as well. You can't see the road clearly, and this is your bike's first cry for help. The charging system is beginning to fail. Ignore it, and you're looking at a $200 to $400 tow bill when you get stranded, plus the cascading damage we're about to talk about. But the next symptom, it's the one that costs riders the most money. Symptom 2. Battery charging issues. Your battery won't hold a charge. You hook it up to a trickle charger overnight, and 2 days later, it's completely dead again. Or the battery drains unusually fast even when you're riding regularly. You're jump-starting the bike every other day just to get it running. A bad regulator rectifier isn't sending enough voltage back to the battery while you're riding. Normally, when your engine is running above idle, the charging system should pump 13.5 to 14.5 volts into the battery to keep it topped off. When the regulator fails, it sends too little voltage, or worse, none at all, so your battery is constantly working in the red, never getting recharged. Here's the brutal consequence. You'll burn through batteries like they're disposable. A decent motorcycle battery costs $80 to $150. If you're replacing one every few months, thinking the battery itself is bad, you're literally throwing money away. The real culprit is the regulator rectifier, and until you fix that, every new battery you install is just going to die the same slow death. I've seen riders go through 3 or 4 batteries in a single season. That's $300 to $600 wasted before they finally figure out the charging system is the problem. And speaking of wasted money, symptom number 3 is where things get expensive fast. Symptom 3. Electronic equipment starts acting up. Now things get really weird. Your horn sounds weak and pathetic, like it's running on fumes. Your fuel pump makes strange clicking noises or hesitates before priming. Your digital display starts glitching. The speedometer drops to 0 randomly, or the tachometer needle bounces around like it's possessed. On newer bikes with ride-by-wire throttle systems, you might even feel hesitation or jerky throttle response. Modern motorcycles are packed with sensitive electronic components, and every single one needs consistent, stable voltage to function properly. Your ECU, your fuel injectors, your ABS module, your traction control system, they're all designed to run on steady 12 to 14 volts. When your regulator rectifier starts failing, it sends inconsistent power through the system. Sometimes the voltage dips too low, sometimes it spikes too high, and all those sensitive electronics can't handle the roller coaster. Here's where riders waste the most money. they start chasing individual symptoms. Oh, my fuel pump must be bad. $200 for a new one. My horn doesn't work. Another $50. My speedo is acting up. Maybe it's a bad sensor. There's another $150. Before you know it, you've spent $500 replacing parts that were never actually broken. The real problem was upstream the entire time, at the regulator rectifier. If you're experiencing multiple electrical gremlins all at once, stop throwing parts at the problem. Check the source of the power first. Test your charging system. Inspect your regulator rectifier and look at the connectors. 9 times out of 10, you'll find the root cause right there. Now, if you're finding this helpful so far, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. I post videos like this every other day to help you diagnose problems, avoid expensive mistakes, and keep your bike running strong for the long haul. But symptom number 4, this is where your regulator can flip from undercharging to overcharging, and the damage gets catastrophic. Symptom 4, unexpectedly bright bulbs or blown bulbs. Here's where the problem flips, and it's even more dangerous. Instead of dim, weak lights, suddenly your bulbs are way too bright. Your headlight looks like a miniature sun. Your turn signals are burning like road flares. Then, one by one, your bulbs start blowing out. You replace them, and they blow again within days or even hours. This is your regulator failing in overcharge mode. Instead of capping the voltage at a safe 13.5 to 14.5 volts, it's letting 16, 17, even 18 volts or more flood directly into your electrical system. Your bulbs are designed to handle 12 volts, maybe 14 at a stretch. When you hit them with 17 or 18 volts, the filament inside burns white hot and disintegrates. But it's not just your bulbs you need to worry about. Your ECU, your ignition coil, your fuel pump, your ABS module. None of these components are designed to handle that much voltage. You can fry circuits, melt wiring insulation, and permanently damage expensive electronic modules. I've seen riders cook their entire ECU because of an overcharging regulator rectifier. That's a $600 to $1,200 replacement depending on the bike, plus another $300 to $500 in labor if you can't do it yourself. Here's the truly scary part. This can happen suddenly. Your charging system might seem fine one day, slightly weak the next, and then boom, without warning, it flips into overcharge mode and starts destroying everything in its path. And that brings us to symptom number 5, the one that leaves you stranded. Symptom 5, engine dying or difficulty starting. Your bike fires up perfectly in the morning. The battery is fresh, the starter cranks strong, everything seems fine. But after you've been riding for 20 or 30 minutes, weird things start happening. The engine starts to stumble at idle. It cuts out when you pull up to a stoplight. You try to restart it, and the starter cranks slower and slower until it finally just clicks weakly and dies. Your battery started the ride with a full charge, but because your regulator rectifier isn't working, it's not getting recharged as you ride. Instead, your battery is being slowly drained by the ignition system, the fuel pump, the lights, and every other electrical load on the bike. After 20 or 30 minutes, the battery voltage has dropped so low that there's not enough juice left to keep the fuel pump running or to fire the ignition coil reliably. At low RPM, your bike is almost entirely dependent on battery power. The stator doesn't produce much voltage at idle, so if your battery is dead and your regulator isn't doing its job, your engine will stumble and die. You might be able to keep it running if you keep the RPMs up, but the moment you come to a stop, it dies. This is the symptom that gets riders stranded. You think everything is fine because the bike started, and then halfway through your ride, you're stuck in a gas station parking lot with a completely dead battery and no way to bump start it, because modern fuel-injected bikes need electrical power to run the fuel pump. Now you're looking at a $150 to $300 tow bill on top of everything else. But if you've got a modern bike with a dashboard, symptom number 6 might actually give you advance warning. Symptom number 6. Dashboard warning lights. If you're riding a modern bike with a decent instrument cluster, you might actually get a warning. A red battery icon lights up on the dash. or a charging system fault message pops up, or you get a generic electrical system malfunction warning that makes your heart sink. If you see any of these warnings, your bike is literally screaming at you that the charging system isn't working. This is your bike's way of saying, hey, I'm monitoring my own voltage and something is very wrong right now. Don't ignore it. Don't assume it's a glitch or a bad sensor. More often than not, that warning light is accurate and you need to address it immediately. Ignoring it can lead to that $1,000 plus repair bill we've been talking about. But here's the frustrating reality. Most older bikes, budget bikes, and even some mid-range motorcycles don't have sophisticated electrical monitoring systems. They don't have a battery warning light. They don't have a charging system fault indicator. You get zero advance notice. You just get symptoms 1 through 5 piling up until something catastrophic happens. If you're riding an older or simpler bike, you can't rely on the dashboard to warn you. You need to be proactive. You need to manually check your charging voltage with a multimeter on a regular basis, especially if your bike is more than a few years old or if you've been noticing any electrical weirdness. Make it part of your routine maintenance. Every oil change, every chain adjustment, take 2 minutes to check your charging voltage. It's the easiest way to catch a failing regulator rectifier before it leaves you stranded. Now, symptom number 7 is the one I warned you about at the beginning, and it's legitimately dangerous. Symptom 7, battery overheating. Now we're entering legitimately dangerous territory. You finish a ride, pop the seat off to grab something, and you casually touch the battery. It's hot. Not warm, not slightly toasty. Hot. Like you can barely keep your hand on it for more than a second or two. This is a clear, undeniable sign that your regulator rectifier is overcharging your battery. A healthy charging system should keep your battery at a comfortable operating temperature. But when the regulator fails and starts dumping 16, 17, 18 volts or more into the battery, all that excess electrical energy has nowhere to go except to turn into heat. An overheating battery is not just inconvenient, it's genuinely dangerous. Lead-acid batteries contain sulfuric acid, and when they overheat, that acid can start to boil. The battery casing can warp or crack. The acid can leak out and corrode everything it touches: your frame, your wiring harness, your paint. Repairing acid damage to a wiring harness can cost $400 to $800 in parts and labor. In extreme cases, the battery can swell up like a balloon and even explode. And if that's not scary enough, overcharged lead-acid batteries produce hydrogen gas. Hydrogen is extremely flammable. If there's a spark anywhere near an overheating, overcharged battery, you've got the potential for a serious fire or explosion. I'm not trying to be dramatic here. This is a real risk, and it's happened to riders before. If you touch your battery after a ride and it's hot to the touch, stop riding immediately. Do not get back on that bike until you've tested your charging voltage. Use a multimeter. Check the voltage at idle and at cruising RPM, and if you're seeing anything above 15 volts, your regulator rectifier is toast and needs to be replaced right now. But there's a sneaky symptom that often flies under the radar, and it's making the problem worse every day you ride. Symptom 8, corrosion on connectors and terminals. Pop your seat off and take a close look at your regulator rectifier. Look at the wire connectors plugged into it. Look at the terminals. If you see green crusty buildup, white powdery residue, rust, or connectors that look burnt, melted, or discolored, you've found a major part of the problem. Corrosion is insidious because it creates electrical resistance. Resistance generates heat. Heat accelerates corrosion and can eventually melt plastic connectors and damage wiring insulation. It's a vicious, self-reinforcing cycle that gets worse over time. Sometimes the regulator rectifier itself is still technically functional, but the connectors are so corroded that electricity can't flow properly. The voltage drops across the corroded connection, and suddenly, your charging system isn't delivering enough power even though the regulator is trying its best. Other times, the corrosion is actually a symptom of a deeper problem. A failing regulator rectifier generates excessive heat, and that heat cooks the connectors, melting the plastic and causing the terminals to oxidize and corrode. Either way, if you see corrosion, you need to deal with it immediately. If the connectors are just lightly corroded, you can clean them with electrical contact cleaner, hit them with a wire brush, and then coat them with dielectric grease to prevent future corrosion. But if the connectors are melted, burnt, or heavily corroded, you need to replace them along with the regulator rectifier itself. Ignoring this can lead to a complete wiring harness replacement. That's $500 to $1,200 depending on your bike. This is often a cheap fix that can save you from a much more expensive repair down the line. A set of replacement connectors might cost you $10 to $20, and some dielectric grease is another $5. And finally, there's one last symptom that most riders never connect to the charging system, but it's robbing you of power every time you twist the throttle. Symptom 9, poor performance and sluggish acceleration. Your bike just doesn't feel right. It's sluggish off the line. It hesitates when you crack the throttle open. It doesn't pull as hard as it used to. You might even notice misfires, stumbling, or a general lack of power, especially in the mid-range. You start troubleshooting. You check the air filter, it's clean. You inspect the spark plugs, they look fine. You clean the throttle body. You check for vacuum leaks. Everything looks good, but the bike still feels flat and lifeless. Here's what most riders don't realize. Modern fuel-injected motorcycles are completely dependent on stable electrical power to perform well. Your fuel pump needs consistent voltage to maintain proper fuel pressure. Your ignition coil needs clean power to generate a strong spark. Your ECU needs stable voltage to make accurate fueling and timing decisions. When your regulator rectifier starts failing and your voltage is bouncing all over the place, sometimes too low, sometimes too high, never stable, all of those systems start to suffer. Your fuel pump can't maintain consistent pressure. Your ignition system produces weak or inconsistent spark. Your ECU starts making bad decisions because it's getting unreliable sensor data and operating outside its designed voltage range. The result is a bike that feels gutless, hesitant, and just plain bad to ride. You might think it's a fueling issue, a spark issue, or even a mechanical problem with the engine itself. But the real culprit is electrical starvation. Your entire system is running on inconsistent, unreliable power, and performance suffers as a result. Riders waste $300 to $700 chasing phantom fueling or ignition problems when the real issue is a $50 regulator rectifier. This symptom usually doesn't show up in isolation. It's almost always accompanied by some of the other symptoms we've talked about: dim lights, weak electronics, battery issues. But if you're chasing a performance problem and everything mechanical checks out, it's time to turn your attention to the electrical system and test your charging voltage. Catch these symptoms early, and you're looking at a $50 to $150 repair you can do yourself in about 30 minutes. Ignore them, and you're staring down a fried battery, a cooked ECU, melted wiring, and a repair bill that can easily hit $1,000 or more. If you want the full step-by-step on how to test and replace your regulator rectifier, check out the video I've linked. It'll walk you through the entire process. And if you found this helpful, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Stay safe out there, and let us know if you do repairs yourself in the comments down below.